On behalf of Namita Gokhale, William Dalrymple, and all my colleagues at Teamwork Arts, welcome back to JLF's Brave New World Season 2. Our magazine partner for this series is The Week, Journalism with a Human Touch. Our first session of the day is a portrait of an artist, Paresh Maity and Ina Puri in conversation with Kishore Singh. A compelling visual chronicle of one of India's most celebrated contemporary artists, a portrait of the artist in the world, introduces us to Paresh Maity, captured by the late celebrated photographer Nimai Ghosh. Writer and art curator Ina Puri has providing the text for this masterpiece capturing the essence of Paresh Maity's work. Paresh Maity is known for his outstanding work in the field of sculptures and watercolors, which has been celebrated the world over. In a conversation with Kishore Singh, Maity and Puri bring forward the essence of this artistic narrative and discuss the journey of the artist and the history it represents. Paresh Maity was born in 1965 in Tamluk and did his BFA from Calcutta and his MFA from Delhi. Maity has over 81 solo exhibitions around the world, from Sydney, Singapore, and Hong Kong to London, Berlin, and New York till date. He has been the recipient of many national and international awards, including the Padma Shri from the Indian government. Ina Puri is a writer, art curator, documentarian, and collector. She has authored memoirs and edited major publications on contemporary Indian artists. Puri's latest work includes Kolkata by Raghu Rai. She has won the National Award for Meeting Manjeet, a documentary she produced on artist Manjeet Bawa. Kishore Singh is a columnist, editor, and writer with experience in journalism and publishing. He's also an art writer and curator. Please do remember to ask questions and comment by typing it into the comment section below. And we will send these to Kishore to ask of our speakers at the end of the session. And in case any of you drop off due to bandwidth issues, you can find us on our Facebook page and on our YouTube channel, Jaipur Litfest JLF. And of course, if we drop off, just hang in there. We'll be right back. Ladies and gentlemen, a portrait of an artist. Paresh Maity and Ina Puri in conversation with Kishore Singh. Kishore, Paresh Maity, Ina Puri, over to you.
Thank you, Sanjoy.
Thank you, Sanjoy. Wonderful introduction. And thank you for hosting this event on this video and internet.
This is really going to be a bit of a cozy chat. This is really a conversation between three friends. Paresh and I have done a book together. Ina and Paresh have done a book together. There's photography by Nimai Ghosh. I've edited 2 books with Nimai Ghosh. Here is this fantastic celebration of Nimaida's art. Unfortunately, a book that comes out posthumously. It's something that I think he would really have wanted to see, but that's a pity that there's nothing we can do about it. I think there's something magical about a photographer like Nimaida, who chose to work with the black and white medium, with the film roll, did not go digital, did not use flash photography, etc. For many, many years, for 25 years actually, he chased Satyajit Ray, photographed him very closely, was known as his bossful. And interestingly, 20 years ago, he began a journey with Paresh on a similar venture where he traveled extensively around with him, photographed him, and created an archive which is surprising in its depth and shows us facets of Paresh that we don't normally get to see. Paresh is a huge showman, he's a great celebrated artist, etc. But he's also a very intense person. You don't really see the intimate aspects of Paresh very often, very frequently. I think Nimaida was privileged to be welcomed into that world. And like he photographed Satyajit Ray extensively in his library, in his studio, where he met visitors, etc. Paresh, of course, guards his studio, doesn't let very many people in, but did allow Nimaida in, so you get a glimpse of Paresh working there. But of course, Paresh working around the world, Paresh oblivious of crowds, Paresh relaxing, etc. It's been extraordinary the way you see him come to life. It's a person that you would otherwise find very difficult to engage with. So I'm going to ask you first, before I come to Paresh, Ina, what was it like meeting this Paresh from Nimaida's archive of photographs that went into building the book versus the Paresh you and I see outside, even though we know him personally, this artist, this painter, who inhabits a world which is so detached and away from what we see around us?
Thank you very much, Kishore. One has been privileged in a sense because I've known Paresh now for many years, over decades, across maybe 30 years or so. And, one has traveled with him, one has seen him work, one has seen him grow into the man he is today. But the thing is that with Nimai Ghosh, what was wonderful is that Paresh and Nimai Ghosh shared so much because of the fact that I think they spoke the same language, which is very important. When you need to communicate, and sometimes it's about intimacy, it's about sharing moments that you're not comfortable sharing with a lot of other people. It's something else when it comes to one of your own. And I think that was the case. They're both from Medinipur and, similar food habits, which is why they could travel together. They went through the most incredible adventures together. And all of that went into the making of this book. And Paresh allowed Nimai Ghosh into this space, which was wonderful, because apart from the studio, they were traveling together in the country, across the world. And what is interesting is that for Nimai Ghosh, everything came to a standstill. He was totally focused on this project. Mind you, it's taken us some 7-8 years. It's like an archive today, looking at Nimai Ghosh's photographs, looking at Paresh Maity's paintings that are in the book, because it's happened over a period of 7-8 years now. So I think that has been our story essentially.
Yeah, I am going to read out, I think, something from the book which, kind of encapsulates exactly what you said, where you write, in the very beginning of this journey, Paresh and Nimaida had grown so close that each understood the other without the need for words. Both have had long and similar careers. Both began with an initial period of struggle and have been outsiders looking in. I think that's, very perceptive in terms of their kind of collaboration on a project such as this. Paresh, I have to ask you, what brought you and Nimaida together? What was the reason you decided that you wanted to collaborate on a project like this? And did you at that point even know that the collaboration would take this shape and spread over these last 20 years?
About 20 years back, I met Nimaida during his exhibition, and I bought one of his photographs also, which was from Kutch. And, we immediately reacted each other. We started talking. And he told me, do you know that we come from both of us, same place, same district? And both of us are Taurian. I asked him, how do you know? Oh, so it was very instinct. And I could not believe that he was much senior. He was like my father's age. We had a lot of age difference, as you all know. Then he said, you travel so many places in this world, and what do you see? I said, I see the places, people, culture, color, everything, interact, and I paint, capture them. He said, I want to capture them also with you. I said, I'll be delighted. I said, that means you would love to travel with me? He said, yes, I know that you travel the world. I have not really gone out of Bengal so much. I said, don't worry, we'll be together and traveling together. So that really the journey started. We had no plan the 20 years back about this book. About 7 years back, one day I was sitting with him in his house in near Kalighat. And he said, Paresh, I have done some thousands of photographs, I think. And whatever book I have seen of yours earlier, they are very grand. I think you'd be able to do the, justify if you can capture, make a book with all these photographs. And I think that would be my best book. I said, Nimaida is done. Whatever you wish, it will be fulfilled, because he was such a wonderful human being before, a master photographer and a genius photographer. And he was just like a child. During 20 years, our journey was like a true child playing, unknowingly and doing what we had no clue. We traveled from Bengal to Venice, all over India many, many times. You name any place we have traveled. In every, season of the year, London, many places. And he captured me, not only I'm at work, in every moment he captured me. While I'm walking, unknowingly, I don't know when he has captured me. They were all black and white and film, analog camera. I used to bring the films from abroad. Lately, as you know, you don't get the films. And 7 years back, we have started selecting the photographs and said this one, no, that one. It should be all fresh, new photographs, not used in any other books. So we started selecting, then we started I started scanning from Thomson, from many, all best of everything, my ability I could do, I have done that. Then of course we were thinking that there should be a writer. We would have loved to ask you, Kishore Dada, but just before this book, you have done one full book. So we said, we have to ask somebody who knows us long time and who knows us very well. Then we thought of Inadi. Because as Inadi said that nearly 30 years we know each other. I don't know how many years. She knows Nimaida. So it took long time to compile, and then, at the end of the day, we were thinking that we should have a good publisher. So finally, God's grace, we could get Westland Amazon to publish. And of course, you can see the book done by Archana. And it was Nimai, last wish he said that it would be wonderful that before I leave, I can see the book. It's very unfortunate he's no more today with us. But we all pray for his soul. What a man. And it was all, planned, done, launch in March, first in Delhi and Kolkata. Everything. But of course, we will do God's grace physical launch. But before he left us, 4 days back, the book could reach him. So I was fortunate that when I got to know, at least it reached to him before he left. So very unfortunate, as I said. And it was a remarkable journey, 20 years with him. We did not know that. We thought sometimes we were relative also. Like Mama Bhagna. It's amazing. What a man. I never said no to anything. Never.
Yeah, you also said that, you traveled, of course, very frequently, Paresh. But Nemaida had at one stage also started keeping a packed suitcase in his bedroom because he never knew when there would be a call saying, get on a flight tomorrow morning, we're going off to XYZ. Ina and I are both very happy to join you on your travels anytime you like. We'll document whatever you say or do. We'll travel with you. Ina, I'm coming back to you, and you were never the second choice. You were always the first choice. This is Paresh just playing games with us. When you do a book where there are photographs by someone like Nemaida, extraordinary works, spanning 20 years of an artist's journey, does the artist become the subject? Does the artist's art become the subject? How did you go about looking at the manner in which you would shape the conversation in the book, and how would you pattern it for the reader/viewer? Wasn't that a huge challenge?
Well, interestingly enough, before this, Nemaida and I had worked together on Faces of Indian Art, which was a very interesting project. Nimai Ghosh was photographing studios for the first time, and we had 52 artists, 50 years, that kind of a span, which was being covered by him, where he personally went into studios and shot artists at work. So when Manjeet and I had commissioned that project, this was sometime in the mid-90s, we had invited him to Delhi, and over a period of time, we got to know him, and we got to know the way his mind was working, because earlier on, his commitment was to cinema, his commitment was to theatre. He himself was a theatre actor, and, he's documented Bengali theatre in a very, very, very thoroughly. Cinema, of course, Ray, Ghatak, Sen, Topun Sinha, he's done all that. But where art is concerned, Nemaida and I worked together earlier on. There, it was a question of shooting artists when they work, but it was, we were giving him about 6 pages for an artist. It was only once in a way that he met someone like M.F. Hussain, who said to him, sit down and sit and watch me paint, and I'll start, before your eyes and give you a complete work by the time I finish and gift it to you or whatever. But in the case of Paresh, what happened was that they were collaborating. Is this a book about photographs? Or is it a book about art? Or is it a book about an artist? I cannot say, perhaps all. And of course, this is a book where Nimai Ghosh is documenting Paresh Maity. But it is also equally a book where Nimai Ghosh has put his heart and soul into the making of this project. And see, if you're working here, the entire book is about one artist. Yet there is no fatigue when you look at the works. Each page tells you a different story. Each frame is so different. And what Nimai Ghosh has achieved with this is that when he's creating a frame here, earlier on in the case of Ray, he was documenting a director, but here he had turned director himself. He was, deciding what kind of a shot he should take, which angle, which camera, all of that. And he worked in a way, he was almost invisible. A tall man like him just disappeared. You didn't know where Nimai Ghosh was. I mean, somewhere, around you, he'd be there taking photographs quietly. And only later you'd get to know when you saw the work. I found it very interesting because there are these beautiful images in Shantiniketan, for instance, where he's sitting inside a tea stall, and the chaiwala is making tea and samosas and whatever. So Nimai Ghosh is inside, Paresh is outside. Through a screen of smoke, there is this silhouette of this man, and by his feet there is a dog. These little touches are Nimai Ghosh. It's not about just shooting a person, but it's shooting that entire, that entire moment that comes alive. In Venice, when he was shooting, for instance, the canal, everything was right there in your face. And So that was very interesting for me to see, because it wasn't like earlier on. It was basically about portraits, largely about portraits. In Paresh Maity's case, in the case of this book, he shoots, of course, the portrait of the artist, but also, the backdrop, the background, and everything happening. You see him painting, you see him exercising, you see him drinking tea, you see him walking, and visually, this whole, it's the documentation of a life which comes alive so vividly.
It's fairly interesting. When you look at the book, etc., you realize that this is perhaps an extremely unique book in the kind of photography undertaken where a single artist has been covered over 20 years. I don't think there's ever been a project or a venture of this nature where a single artist has been documented in this on this particular scale, which, I mean, it's rare that anybody should be documented over a period like this. Also, when I first started looking at the book, etc., one saw images of Paresh, and you see that some backgrounds are familiar, some are less familiar, etc., and you start looking for captions, and you realize that the photographs are not captioned. You don't know whether this is in London or Venice or Spain or Norway or Shantiniketan or Shimla, etc., somewhere. Initially, you wonder why that is the case, till you realize that this is not a travel book. This is not a book about places. It's a book about a person. And of course, the background is important, etc., but the background should not become the subject, etc., which I thought was actually very clever. One would have normally done, mention the names of the places, etc. So whoever decided on that, thank you for that. Paresh,
yes,
I've seen you painting.
Yes.
I've seen the way you work.
Yes.
You're very, very intense when you're painting. I think you become oblivious to everything. You're very present as a person. You're very conscious about the way you organize your day, how you eat, what you do, the hours when you will exercise, when you will work, etc. All of that is a very well thought out, planned day. But you become fairly detached when you're painting. Everything fades away, and you're present in that moment only where your paints, your paper, your canvas, etc. are. However, when you're painting in a very public space, and you're painting in Venice, or you're painting in Shimla, and there are people, there are tourists, there are crowds, there are curious people who want to see what's happening, etc. All of this is happening, which I'm surprised you're not distracted by. On top of which, you have a photographer who's present, who's documenting you. What is that moment like for you? When you're painting, when you're surrounded by people, and when there is a photographer of the stature of Nimaida present who's documenting this, what does it feel for you?
Whenever I have painted, let's say in Piccadilly Circus, or in Varanasi Ghats, or in St. Marcos Square in Venice, I always thought when I'm painting, and you are right, that I get lost. I don't know what is there. I don't have any preconceived ideas. I completely get involved with my art, and I feel I'm in my studio where nobody is there. When I paint, there is nobody. So I have never believed that I am sitting here, there are hundreds of people watching, or Nimaida is photographing. Then it will be very conscious effort. And this is very interesting, as you said, that I paint in a very short time. But that time, I am fully 1000% conscious about that, what I'm doing, about my painting, my color. And as you know now, let's say put red means the red. There is no hesitation. Blue means blue. So I have nothing in my mind, nothing, no idea what is happening rest of the world. Once I have finished, I know that basically watercolor when I do, like 100% is done. Not that I will take it to my studio, and because I always believe the whole world is my studio. So wherever I can paint in the kitchen, I can paint in on the boat, I can paint, I can do sketches everywhere, and that's been going on last more than 40 years. So I have no issues. Even I am sometimes I saw the cow has just really crossed my painting like this, and somebody said, "Oh my goodness, he's gone." But he's really just gone. Dog, stray dogs are just going around. I have no clue. Sometimes it comes in my painting in a form. So I never, even today when I paint, I really get lost. I forget the rest of the world, what is happening. Because until and unless I give my total heart and soul, my mind, my all senses, then I cannot really takes out, because after when I start, I'm started. Then once we talk each other, the art, the piece of art and me, and art dominates me. I've realized not that I dominate, that I want to make this. Art says that you do this. I'm like a servant. So, and that's why when sometimes I finish, I say, my goodness, did I, want to do this, or it has just happened? And that's why I cannot repeat and I cannot capture. I don't know how, when I get lost.
Which is quite extraordinary. I remember, this is several years back, and I don't know if you will have a memory of this. There was an installation that was being inaugurated in a public place in Delhi, and there was a set of photographs, Nimaida's photographs, which had been used in the background, a set of them, etc. And the promoter who had commissioned the installation bought the set of photographs and took them away. So I would have to ask you, when you're looking at these photographs in your book, they're very much works of art as well.
Yes, very much.
How do we separate the fact that this is a book about an artist, there are his works of art in it, and the photographer's images, which are also works of art somewhere? Is there a distinction, or is there a way of looking, which is unique in a book like this, where both come together and meld, and there is really no difference other than the fact that one is black and white and your works are extremely vibrant?
It is actually, it was a bridge between two artists. You cannot separate them. It is like without left and right, you cannot combine a complete thing. It was just like that. It was really a bridge, not only with our art, with our spirit, our, the tendency of everything in life, our approach to life, our looking at the things at the life. And it was completely like two soul, merge together like a sangam. So you cannot differentiate. And sometimes he said that he used to say, "Oh my goodness, I don't know why also I eat the same thing." Yes, and that's why, as I said in the beginning, that we were like two child who doesn't have any preconceived ideas, thoughts, thinking, what will we do, what will be done, Because when we were taking these photographs, we had no clue 20 years back we will come out with this book.
I think the collaboration comes through very beautifully in the way the book has melded together. Ina, what I'm going to ask you a slightly cheeky question, which is, you were working with these two maestros, two extremely well-established personalities, an artist and a photographer, very well known, very well celebrated, not just in India, but around the world, as we know. But you're also working with two people who are very compassionate. We knew both Nimaida, we know Paresh, etc. They're very soft, they're very caring, they're very generous human beings. But as artists, photographers who are totally in control of what they do, they also have their own egos. And therefore, their own sense of what is right, what is wrong, what is correct, what perhaps is not, etc. When you were working on this book with two compassionate but also very strong people, what was that experience like?
You know, Kishore, we were friends. What makes this project work so well is the fact that three of us, mind you, we are all very different as people. And Nimaida is much older. I'm older than Paresh. We come from different backgrounds, but somewhere, you know, we communicate. We remain friends. I've known both Paresh and Nimaida for a very long time. And our conversations often that I have actually recorded has been over a period of time, but normally both of them gave so much of respect to each other. But Nimaida was so much older, of course, he was very, if he chose to be, and I've seen that, extremely arrogant. He knew exactly, that, what he deserved as an artist. And Paresh, of course, but the kind of respect and affection they had for each other was remarkable. So when I interviewed them and I did speak to them separately and together, they spoke the same language. Paresh, when he spoke about his work, he would always, mention the fact that Nimai Ghosh was important in this project. Nimaida was documenting it and how much he respected him and allowed him to do what he wished. Nimaida would always respect the fact that there is this young man who's achieved so much. He has struggled, but here he is, and this is what he has done for himself. And that respect would be there for Paresh as well. And I've written about it. That came across, so often that I really didn't. I sometimes would have thought that maybe, artists tend, ego is very much a part of their mental makeup. But here were two people where ego did not matter. They were very comfortable in each other's companies. And of course, we all shared a sense of humor. And we had, this similar love for food. So sometimes our conversations would be over a meal, and certainly in Nimai Ghosh's house, Nimaida's house in Kalighat Road was a center, it was a hub where we would sit and chat, and you wouldn't even know how time passed. I had taken friends over, and I still remember I had taken Sanjana Kapoor one day, and he said, I have a surprise for you. I have a photograph of Shashi Kapoor. And, so from early days, once I remember seeing images from City of Joy, image of Shabana Azmi, Om Puri, and, going there was like, it was like Ali Baba's cave. You didn't know what would emerge. There would be these images, but somewhere, because I think I was close to him, I had that, that relationship with him where I could tell him things and there was trust. So, with Paresh's, with this project, when he shared images, and often we would talk about what to take, what not to do, how are we going to proceed, all of that, it was a joint decision. I would speak to him, I would speak to Paresh after that, the three of us would get together. This was possible only because, the three of us took a call on everything together.
So I have to ask you, therefore, when you're working on a project such as this, where the people involved are such close friends, etc., does that make the task of writing easier or more difficult?
Certainly more difficult, because you have to do justice to this friendship. You have to justify the trust. And therefore, it is important. And also because a lot of the conversations between us is in Bengali. So my task was also, when I was writing, was not only to document, but to mentally translate. And when I was making notes, was to, from Bengali to English, and then quickly jot down points, because the conversations mostly were so interesting. With Nimaida, he would tell you about his theater days and how he had to sit on the 10th row and take his photographs. How about about the time when he first went to the sets of Gupiga in Bhagavai. But my worry was this, that, there it was a question of shooting an illusion. With Ray, it was a set, beautifully lit, and everything was just so. With Paresh, there was no such arrangement. It was all impromptu. I mean, he could be sitting in Shimla, or he could be sitting on the Howrah Bridge. There would be people coming, going, all of that, hullabaloo. So how on earth is he going to make it work? But somehow I think, in the making of this whole project, he began his career shooting Inner Eye with Ray, but he became the Inner Eye himself in the course of his life. Is that what that is what I feel,
Yeah, I think that's very beautifully said. I think the way Nimai would just become a part of the background and let his subject come through. I am, going to ask you, Paresh. Nimai was fairly possessive about his photographs, the kind of pictures he took, etc. Had a very sharp selector's eye, etc. So when we worked on the Satyajit Ray project, he wanted to see the photographs we were going to be using in the books, etc. And in the second book that we did with, Faces and Facets, in fact, he did the selection of the actual images that would go into the book. When you were doing the selection for Portrait of an Artist in the World, what was that experience of actually choosing the photographs? Did he guide you in any way? How did you do the selection? How did the ultimate or the final selection come through?
It was very, very spontaneous. Not that he has ever, really recommended that you do this. Neither I have said anything. As Inadi said, that we had so much of love and affection and respect each other. Maybe he said this, then I said, oh, that's fine. Maybe I said this, he said, oh, that's wonderful. So we, both of us were very positive about this and never really said that, oh, no, this is I won't like, this is light is bad or all this. So because I knew that he's a great photographer, he knew me. So that's why we have never really, interrupted each other, never crossed anybody's anything. And we, as I said, that when there are two child, they have no such ego, no such preconceived ideas, thoughts, or anything in life. So they were just, really 20 years played together. As he was like my father and I was like a son. But we had never a single minute, even not even selecting a photographer. Maybe we were sitting and eating something, he would say, no, I will not eat this. Or you like this. Everything, anything, we were satisfied and we were content.
Fantastic. Well, thank you, Ina. Thank you, Paresh. Fantastic conversation. We could continue, etc. But fortunately, we have lots
Thank you, Kishore Singh. Thank you, Inadi.
No, we're not leaving you yet, Paresh. We have these questions coming in. And reasonably predictably, a very large number of questions seem to be based around the whole idea of this public health emergency that we're undergoing, the kind of work that is being done in this time, and whether you as an artist are addressing any of these issues in the kind of work that you're doing now.
Yes, in the beginning of lockdown, I painted a painting, landscape, where I have depicted that after that dark night, the light comes. So we all have to have patience. We'll pass this night and the day will begin, fresh, beautiful day. So that was, some inner urge and inner philosophy I have depicted in that painting. Then later on, I made another painting that during this pandemic, the people, they are really, involved and serving the world. Tribute to those people, I have made a painting. Like we were sitting at home, doing painting, but not really went to the battlefield and serving people. We were quiet, we were at home, we were in lockdown, but they were really in the battlefield. So to salute them, I made another painting. Then I made some paintings lot of paintings just for myself, not thinking to have an exhibition, not thinking to give it to this one or that one. And they had some kind of, not some kind, that the positive, that this, as we know that every negative thing has is same and equal positive. So they were all very positive approach to life, that be positive, be, courageous. We'll all pass this and we'll have a beautiful world. So with that context, I painted during last 7, 8 months, but not really too much of that direct uh, illustration that I'm doing a, artwork like this. Now I have just started a big painting, and where that is one language is this issue, where the whole world I have combining in one canvas and with one issue.
Wonderful. We know that Nimai Ghosh was an accidental photographer, at least in the sense that as a theatre person, he found or came upon an abandoned camera in a taxi, picked it up, got the opportunity to visit Satyajit Ray's sets, and started photography. But I have some questions coming in here for you, Paresh, which are, what were the materials that you started with when you started your journey? And what was your approach to your work and your art when this whole aspect of starting your practice as an artist began?
Started my life as a career at the age of 7. I started playing with clay, doing clay modelings, making toys, selling them in many places. Anyway, that's not the thing. But after that, it became watercolor, because that was the easiest thing that I could really get a piece of paper and small tubes and just 1 or 2 brushes. And of course, later on, I found that this is the most difficult medium. The challenge is there. So that remained my heart and soul. Of course, later on, oil, acrylic, sculpture again came in a very big way, very dominant way. As you know, my sculpture installations are huge.
Oh, absolutely.
And then mixed media, like combining with all kinds of like charcoal, watercolor, acrylic, and all sorts of things. Even some materials I have used, to create the texture, and various kind of papers to paste on each other to create the texture. So I now really, even then during Nimaidas, like sometimes I'm doing watercolor, sometimes oil, sometimes this. So it was not the medium was the factor, it was the factor to create a piece of art in any medium or any form.
You've picked up the camera yourself, you've taken photographs, you enjoy photography.
That's right.
Could we
started.
see you exhibit as a photographer? I know
Yes.
you've done one small show, but do we see you stepping out as a photographer?
I did not small show, many big shows, but I have learned many years back that I cannot keep my 2 legs on 2 boats.
Mhm.
That art is so vast. Probably I need one more life, what I have in my mind to, transform them into my art. So,
If it was in our hands, we'd grant that to you, Paresh.
because it's impossible that to do, because so much, like to really discover, sometimes I think that why there is no 48 hours for a day for me.
It's so true. It's so true. I mean, some of us who know you well and know what you pack into a day, we're totally amazed by it. Ina, last question coming to you. In this time of lockdown, etc., when you're working from home, again without distractions, etc., what has it meant for you as a writer? Are you doing in-depth work, researching? Are there projects that you're working on that you'd like to share with us?
Well, yes, first of all, of course, was this book itself. It was supposed to have been launched. We were almost there, but we produced this book in the lockdown and we've launched it. I hope more people can pick it up and see what we have done. So, this was one major project. I have also done fundraising for Fun and worked on that for about 2.5, 3 months when Fun hit Calcutta. So that was a project I was actively involved with. Of course, I'm researching, and I find it very peaceful at home to sit and to read and to spend time writing without any distractions, without travel. I, as you know, travel a fair amount, but it's been a good time to plan what I'm going to do in the next couple of years. And there are some projects that I'm already working on. There are books on senior artists. But at this point, I think what I need to do is just, sort notes out, sort my thinking so that, by the time this lifts, I shall be able to get back to my travels. Because for me personally, all my work is related to the fact that I like talking to people, face to face. I don't like, sending them questionnaires and talking on the phone. For me, it's very important. Even with this book, Paresh and I met with masks and maintaining social distance, but we met, discussing how we are going to launch this book only, and that could happen only because we met face to face. Similarly, once this is done, there are these artists I have been working with in the last couple of years. I will go back, meet them, and then restart our conversations. But quickly, Kishore, I wanted to tell you one thing about Nimaida, and that is that, when it came to Nimai Ghosh's memory, he was absolutely brilliant. We were talking about this book. He remembered every single image. I mean, and he has taken some iconic images. Others worked for newspapers and they were looking at headline pictures that would make it for the headlines. Nimai Ghosh worked on images that would last forever. Posterity would remember his work. But the most amazing thing, and I saw him weeks before he passed, was his memory, that he remembered every image that he had taken. So that
I would second that. I mean, in all my conversations with him, I would totally second that. And if Nimaida was, of course, Paresh's Boswell, Instagram is your Boswell. We all follow you on Instagram and we know how you travel, etc., etc. So we share that part of your life as well. Thank you. This has been really, really fun. This has been really fantastic. Big hug to you, Paresh. And a big hug
very
to
much.
Ina, and over to you, Sanjoy. Thank you for having us here.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jaipur Lit Fest, and especially Sanjay Ra, to hosting this wonderful, launch and program. And I'm very proud that how you made this Jaipur Lit Fest global and popular all over the world.
Thank you, Pareshda. Thank you, Ina Puri. Thank you, Kishore Singh. That was an absolutely brilliant conversation. And I certainly have this aching urge to be able to see the book. None of you showed even one photograph from this fabulous book. And for those of you who don't know, Nimai Ghosh is truly a legendary photographer, Satyajit Ray's photographer, and much of his work is seen to be as art, and his work also is collected pretty much like Paresh Maiti's work by collectors and museums across the world. They're rare, they're insightful, and as Ina said, it in itself is art. It is an absolutely stunning collector's item, and I do hope that each of you who are watching are able to access this book with Ina Puri's very beautiful, evocative writing. And I think both Kishore said something very specific. He talked about empathy, and that really comes through the book. So once again, Ina Puri, Paresh Maity, Kishore Singh, thank you for that beautiful conversation. Many congratulations for this book. And I'm sure Nimaida, wherever he is, with his cigarette and in his honor, cheers.
Cheers.
And
He bless us.
In Ina Puri, Paresh Maity, I'm surprised that you were talking about meeting together in person with masks. What happened to the Ilish March and the Chingri March? And I mean, are you saying that two people came together in this world without an iota of food? Not believable. Unless
No,
your masks
don't
had
worry.
something.
And I am getting you. Please, WhatsApp me your address tomorrow. Personalized book will be at your place
Yes.
Thank you so much,
tomorrow
Parishta.
by
And
hand. Don't worry.
I will sign it for you. Thank you so very much, Sanjay. This was
Thank you, Kishore Dada. Thank you, Inadi.
A
Once
pleasure. This
again,
has been very nice. Thank you
it was
all.
wonderful conversation.
thank you all. And
Thank
thank you
you.
all for being such a great audience. We're sorry we couldn't send all the questions out to Kishore Singh to ask of our speakers today. We just ran out of time. We do hope you enjoyed this conversation, and we'll log back on at 8:30 p.m. for our next session on JLF's Brave New World, The Tribulations of Trial by Media, Kota Nilima, Paranjoy Gua Thakurta, Pushpesh Pant, Sevanti Nainan, in conversation with Indrani Bakchi. Sensational and often toxic coverage by electronic and print media interferes with due process and judicial inquiry. In conversation with Indrani Bakchi, reputed journalists and media persons discuss the root causes of this criminal irresponsibility and the ethical and legal framework required to contain and correct this very dangerous trend. This will be at 8:30 p.m. And meanwhile, do remember to block your dates for JLF North America and continue to watch, participate, and be inspired and informed with brilliant sessions that will be presented across our 4 editions with Nobel laureates, Man Booker, Pulitzer, Commonwealth Award winning writers. This is at JLF Colorado, November 8th to the 11th and November 15th to the 18th. JLF Houston, November 21st to the 22nd, and JLF New York, November 23rd, 24th. And we conclude with JLF Toronto, November 27th to the 29th. So block your dates. See you at 8:30 p.m.